was helping her boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, fix his house after being flooded. And she was just so sweet and nice and wise. She was wise. And I was attracted to her right away. And then later, years later, she moved to Columbus, and I got to meet her all over again. And she's even better than I thought. So I don't want to waste anybody's time. And please come up, listen to... Come on.
All right. Hi, guys. My name's Jessica. I'm an alcoholic. Hey, all the way in the back. I hope Bob can keep his golf score better than he counts up here. Tim will tell on you later. This is actually my first time at Spring Roundup. I usually work every weekend, so I take off for the women's workshop every year, and the last couple years for the Dayton Women's Workshop. So I have never been able to come to this, but Christine asked me a year ago, no, it wasn't a year, but long enough to drive me just about insane thinking about it. So I was able to get off, and I'm so grateful she asked me. What an honor. You know, it doesn't feel like an honor as you're walking up here, but it really truly is. To be asked to participate in Alcoholics Anonymous is an honor. And I was brought up in a home group that teaches me never to say no when anyone asks me to do something in Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm going to move this a little bit. My sobriety date is February 23rd, 2008. My sponsor is Sareka, who's here, so I have to be real honest. My grand sponsor is Jean, who's also here, and my husband's here, so no pressure, right? I was actually born in Columbus, lived in Columbus most of my life, moved away to California when we were little, moved back when I was 12. My dad is an alcoholic. He will tell you he's an alcoholic. He's 75 and he still drinks 12 Miller Genuine drafts a day. So I was raised in a very kind of chaotic household, like most of us are. Definitely was a lot of, you know, I never knew what was going to happen, right? Just like how we are, it was like that in my house. You know, my dad would drink. Who knew if he was going to be nice or mean, or if they were going to fight or get along, or if we'd have dinner or not. And my dad was a truck driver, so he was gone for, you know, a week, 2 weeks at a time. So just a lot of instability. I would say I never really knew what structure and discipline were. Every day was kind of different. I think that I was born an alcoholic. That's just my opinion. I have a twin sister who is not alcoholic. Raised totally the same environment, same parents, all that stuff. But something in me was different, and I felt different at a young age. I always felt separate from. I always felt insecure, not enough, left out. I never felt like I belonged anywhere. No matter who I was with, who I was around, I never felt like I belonged. And that was just a kind of common theme in my life. I would always change the way I was, or the way I looked, or the way I behaved to fit in with groups of people. You know, if I was at school, I would dress a certain way and act a certain way, and then after school I would be with the other kids, you know, the bad kids, and I would dress a different way and act a different way, and so I learned how to use this kind of chameleon effect to blend in, and it was a great tool for a really long time for me. I took my first drink when I was 14. My dad drank Killian's Red back then, and so that was my first drink of alcohol, was a Killian's Red with a straw in it, because they said you got drunker if you used a straw. I really didn't know what that was going to feel like, but I wanted it faster. Like already alcoholic, before I even took the drink, I want it as fast as possible, right? And I chased that effect for a really long time. There was always alcohol in my house, so it was never really an issue me getting it. It was more of the, where are we going to go to drink it, because my parents were not okay with me drinking. And so we found some places to go. I did start using other things at a pretty young age also. I got arrested at 14, very short-lived drinking life at that point, but got arrested with alcohol in the car. I wasn't driving, thank goodness, but not to say I didn't drive at 14, but I just wasn't driving at that point. And it was just some beer in the car, so they pretty much just let us go, not a big deal. They took me to juvie, and my parents came and got me. But I think the next time I got arrested, I was 17. I was in high school, got arrested at school with drug paraphernalia. And I have to say, I was an intelligent, I was academically intelligent, right? So I got good grades. I was in AP classes. I actually skipped a grade, so my schoolwork, my academic career was pretty good. And so getting caught at school with drug paraphernalia and getting arrested at school I felt like I got street cred, I wasn't just the smart kid anymore, So I felt like, I don't know, it's so ridiculous now. I did graduate, barely. They told me if I missed any more days of high school, I would not walk. And I think I missed like 8 more days, and they still let me walk. Have you ever, I don't know if anybody else has done this, but I had it for my college. I had to get my high school transcripts, and I hadn't seen them in, I don't know how long, 15 years. And I really thought I got good grades. I saw my senior transcript. It was terrible. But I had deluded myself into thinking, yes, I was in AP classes, but I had D's and C's, And so in high school, I started working at a pharmacy, and I kind of became a chemist at that point. It was an old mom-and-pop pharmacy, so my favorite job to do there was vacuuming in between the aisles. They didn't have cameras, so that vacuum was really loud. It was like the old Hoover vacuums, the metal ones, really, really loud. And so I'd just go in between all the aisles and just take whatever I wanted. And so I had all the friends in the world. Everybody wanted to be my friend. I had what they wanted, and I had what I wanted, and life was good. I did graduate, and I did that famous, I'm going to take a year off before I go to college, right? Just a year. Just have fun for a year, relax. I started partying with my mom, who had never really had any issues that I knew of. And it just kind of happened. I offered, she accepted, and things just got real messy at that point. So my relationship with my mom was forever warped. I don't know if there's any other way to put it. Damaged, maybe. Up until then, my mom was a normal mom. She cooked, she cleaned, she worked, she did my homework with me, pushed me to do good. And it seems like right around that age, I don't know if she thought she was just done, because we were, 18, me and my sister, but we both just kind of cut loose at that time. And I'm still working at the pharmacy, and one day I was getting ready to leave, and the owner, his name was Pat, he passed away last year, but he pulled me in and he said, I know you've been stealing, give me whatever you have and I won't call the police, but you're fired. And I said, okay. And, I'm crying at this point, and he feels sorry for me, and he says, why are you stealing? And I said, I just needed extra money, Didn't admit that I was using anything. Didn't admit, that I was the one who was actually taking them. And so he took them back, and I went my way, and I thought, whew, got off that one, you know. Just like getting caught with the alcohol at 14, I always found a way to kind of get out of it, and so I just went on. I probably didn't even think twice about it. A few months later, I was partying at a friend's house. I locked my keys in my car, and called the police to unlock my car, and they came, and it was a Camaro. So I thought they just really didn't know how to unlock the doors in a Camaro. They must never have done it to a Camaro. And so it was taking an awful long time. And he finally comes into the door and he says, the good news is we got your car door unlocked. The bad news is you have a warrant for your arrest. And so once again, I'm crying, and he puts me in the back of the cop car, and he says, you know, he was a younger guy, and he turns around to me and he says, you just don't look like you belong in the back of a cop car. And I said, I don't. He gets me, you know. And I really truly believe that I did not belong in the back of that cop car. I was fully 100% guilty of the charge that I was charged with, but I still felt like I didn't belong there. And so he did. He was a nice officer. He let me just make phone calls and try to figure out how I was going to get out of there. I didn't have to go into the drunk tank, or I look at Adina because she knows. Whatever it's called. So I made some phone calls, and I think my bond was like $800, and my parents weren't going to help me, you know. And so I called my boyfriends, and I told my husband I wasn't going to talk about all the boyfriends. I'm sorry, honey. I always had like one main boyfriend, but then there was always like someone in the shadows just in case that one fell through. You know, there's always always had one on standby. And so my boyfriends put their money together and came and got me out of jail. True story. And so I got out, and I was 18. I got a lawyer. My parents got me a lawyer. I did not get myself a lawyer because I had no money. But so they got me a lawyer, and he said, you should probably go to treatment, and that'll look real good when you go to court. And I said, okay. So I went to detox, went to treatment, and I went to Terra Treatment Center. Woo-hoo. All the Terra people in here. I know they're here. And I actually turned 19 in treatment, if that's not like the most depressing birthday ever, right? But they introduced me to Alcoholics Anonymous, the first time I'd ever been to a meeting, and we went to lots of different meetings when I was there. While I was there, I knew I had a problem with drugs, right? People didn't use the things I was using socially. It just isn't a thing. And so I knew that deep in my heart I did not want to keep using those things. But I could not figure out how I could be an alcoholic at the ripe old age of 19, right? I can't even legally buy a drink. Like, I can't even go into the liquor store. How can I be an alcoholic? It doesn't make sense. I met this woman in there, and she had a story that just blew my mind, and she was sober, and they sent her to this Hope House in Scottsburg, Indiana, and so when my time was up, I kind of followed her there, and the brochure for the Hope House kind of looks like this plantation home. I had never been to Scottsburg, Indiana, but it sounded nice, right? It wasn't where I was from, so I go down there, and the news is on as I'm bringing my trash bags full of clothes, right? I didn't have luggage or a car or anything, And the news says Kentuckiana News. And I thought, where the hell am I? Am I in Kentucky? Like, no, it was great. There were like 25 women, bunk beds, just packed to the gills with crazy alcoholic addict women. It was a heck of an experience, I'll tell you that much. I did ask someone to be my sponsor there. I never used her. I read the big book, and I went to a lot of meetings, and I learned how to talk the talk, right? I wanted to be sober, but I just had never given up that last thought of not being an alcoholic. I'd never talked to anyone about it. I kind of held that secret idea that maybe one day I can drink like a normal person and not go smoke crack after, right? So I tried. I really, really tried, as much as I could at that point, I guess. And so I made this plan with God. I said, God, if I go out to eat and they serve me alcohol, then I know it's okay for me to drink and I'm not an alcoholic. Because I'm only 19, right? My chances of getting served were, like 50-50, I don't know. And so I go out to dinner and I order a beer and they serve me. And I thought, thank you, God. At least I can drink. I'll give up everything else, but let me just drink. And I was off to the races once again. It didn't take long. I got in a relationship then. He had been in the program too, and so he was drinking, I'm drinking, and of course that always works out well, right? He liked to play guitar, get really drunk, and then fall down. Yes, it was Vinny. So obviously, that relationship didn't work out at that time. I went back to Columbus, and it wasn't very long. I was off and running again, drinking as often as I could at that point. I met another guy, another hostage, I should say. I did leave a trail of bodies, for sure. But he drank every day, and he always had alcohol stocked. He had a bar in his house. And so I went over there after our first date, and I just moved in. I didn't leave. You know those alcoholic first dates where you just move in, right? There's no getting to know you. It's just bringing my bag with me. I'll get the rest of my crap later. And so so I started drinking every day. It was definitely a different type of group of people than I had been around, where drinking was more acceptable. And he knew I'd had other issues in the past, but drinking was okay with him too, right? Because he drank the same way. And so I really tried to just drink for a long time. It didn't last very long. Once I take a drink of alcohol, I have no inhibitions. There is no telling what I'm going to do, what I'm going to, the way I'm going to act, or what else I'm going to add to it. Once I take a drink, the drink takes me, and I have no control over what happens. And that's the truth of it. Alcohol took me right back to where I was. I ended up pregnant. I don't really know how that happened, but I did try really, really hard to not use while I was pregnant. I'm not going to stand up here and say I was perfect at that, because I wasn't. That's how powerful of a disease this is that even pregnant, I could not stop. Even when my child's health hung in the balance, I could not stop. And thank God he was born healthy. I will tell you, after I had him at home, I would sit on the couch with this little tiny baby, and I would be waiting for the cops to come arrest me and take my kid. That's how guilty I felt, that I could not stop even while pregnant, and I thought they were going to find out and come find me. I don't know if anybody's ever had that kind of guilt or shame, but it is all-encompassing. And the way I dealt with that guilt and shame is to just numb it out some more, and so I just kept going. Life got pretty bad. I was really good at living that kind of split life where I would do things in the dark that nobody knew about, and then show everybody else a different side of me. I'm working, and I'm a mom, and I have this nice house and nice car, and but I'm doing all these other things that nobody knows about, and it just became too much work. Drinking and using the way I drink and use was definitely a full-time job, and then trying to hide it on top of it, I just couldn't do it anymore. And I handed my son to his dad, and I said, I just need a break. I'll be right back. And I disappeared for 2 weeks. I went on a 2-week bender. Didn't talk to any of my family or friends. Not to my son's dad, definitely. They were getting ready to actually call me in as a missing person. I just went off the map, and I really don't know if I was trying to die at that point. I knew I didn't want to live the way I'd been living anymore, and I didn't know what to do. So I just kept adding fuel to the fire, right? And at that 2-week end point, I had this moment where I just felt this moment of relief, just one moment of relief from the pain and the guilt and the shame and despair that I'd been feeling, and I just felt like I am done. I cannot keep doing this, and I left the house where I was at, and I went out to where I'd hid my son's dad's car, because he was probably going to call it in stolen. And so I went and sat in that car, and I called my sister, my twin sister, who has never stopped trying to help me. God bless her. She's probably my biggest enabler, but she's also my biggest champion today. So I love her so much for that. But she never gave up on me, and so she came. I went and saw my mom, and I'll never forget the look on her face, even though she was, as sick as I was. Now that I'm a mom, I understand how scared she probably was, not knowing where her child was for 2 weeks, and seeing the look on her face when I knocked on the door will stay with me forever, because I did that to her. I put her through that, and it's Mother's Day weekend, so I'm sorry. I'm going to try not to get emotional. And so my sister pretty much took me to the emergency room and kicked me out of the car and kept rolling. I had to walk up to the ER registration and say, I have a problem and I need help, and it was so humiliating. I knew some of the people that worked there from high school, so here I am. I haven't showered. I smell. They want to do all these EKGs and take blood, and I'm like, why are you doing this? I just need treatment, and so they cleared me. I got out of there, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go back to Scottsburg. They knew something down there. I don't know what it is about Scottsburg, but they have some kind of secret, right? And so I didn't have insurance or anything then, so I couldn't afford Tara. So I went back down to Scottsburg, once again to the halfway house, and Shanita was still there, the woman I had met in Tara the first time, and she was still sober, and a lot of the women down there were still sober, and I wasn't. This was 5 years later, and so I'm 23, back down in Scottsburg, homeless, don't have my kid. I'd signed over him to his dad because I knew I couldn't take care of him. Jobless, homeless, everythingless. And back at square one. I went there. I got a sponsor. Shanita knew something I didn't because she was able to stay sober. And so I asked, I don't even know if I asked her or if she just told me she was going to, or offered it to me because I was so pitiful at that point. I don't really know. But either way, she was my sponsor. And she took me through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. We met every week at her house and read the big book. She told me if I didn't have a home group, I was homeless in Alcoholics Anonymous, and so I got a home group. My first home group was in Henryville, Indiana, and I love that home group. I still love that home group. I got to go talk there a few weeks ago, and the same old farts are still there. I think there might have been like 2 women in this home group, but the first meeting I went to, they celebrated like 75 years of sobriety together, and I thought, I'm just staying here. I'm not leaving. I want what they have. And so they taught me a whole lot about Alcoholics Anonymous. About a year sober, that guy I tried to live with, but we both were drinking, he came back around sober. And so I didn't get in any serious relationships my first year. I tried really hard. I'm definitely not going to say I did anything perfectly in sobriety for sure. I got in all kinds of trouble. But I tried to follow that one. I knew that I had a pattern when it came to men and relationships, and none of them were healthy. I could lie and manipulate and get out of a lot of things, and get away with a lot of things, and I didn't want to continue doing that. So to do that, I had to change my behavior, and for me to learn how to change my behavior, I had to work the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and learn how to change, those character defects and personality traits that had, that were really just toxic for a long time. So I did end up getting back together and stayed together. The first healthy relationship I think I've ever been in. So I decided I wanted to go back to college. I say back because I kind of went the first time, but I got really drunk before my finals and never went that day. Like go all semester and then just get shit-faced and don't go to your finals. You pay for it and you don't. It's just, that's the insanity of alcoholism, right? Even when I have something so important to do, I can't do it. Alcohol just is more important. And so I actually had to pay them money to go back to school to get rid of those old grades. I also had to get my criminal record expunged, which was fun. Did you know for nursing school they do a Homeland Security background check? Talk about terrifying. I'm like, what is going to show up? But I did. I was waitressing. I was paying for classes, out of pocket, just 1 or 2 classes at a time, and just started going. Somebody in Alcoholics Anonymous told me that you can do anything you want as long as you stay sober, and I believed that person. And so I thought, I really want to go back to school. I want to get my nursing degree, and I want to help other alcoholics and addicts just like me. And so I did. I went back to school. It took me a while to just finish, but I did. I was 2 years sober and got pregnant again. I don't know how that kept happening. And so here I am going to nursing school, pregnant, working, staying sober one day at a time, and my mom's coming back around, right? She's trying to get her act together. So I had pretty healthy boundaries, if you're on something, you're not coming over. If you're not, then you can. And she was really trying to get off of her stuff. So she had seen my son a few times. At that point, I'd got my son back and had him quite a bit of the time. But I get a call one night from my little brother's 10 years younger than me. And so it was kind of an odd relationship. He was more of like an extra kid at that point. But so I'm 25, he's 15, and he calls me and he said, "They just found Mom dead." And I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" And he said, "They just found Mom dead. I think she overdosed." And the sheriffs had called my brother and told him, and so my brother had to be the one to call me at 15 years old. And my first thought, when he said that, after the kind of shock and disbelief and denial, was that should have been me. That should have been me, and why not me, right? I'm not special. Why did I get this chance at sobriety and recovery and she didn't? And I was angry. And then I had all these women in Alcoholics Anonymous just surround me with love and food and anything I needed. I've never felt that type of caring in any other situation in my life. They showed up and walked me through her funeral and all of that. At 25 and just a couple years sober, how do you plan a funeral? I had never done that. My dad was around, but pretty absent. And these women literally carried me through that. I'm pregnant, with a daughter, and my mom dies. So it was a lot, and there was a lot of other stuff with her going on that I didn't necessarily know about, but that's the disease, that is the disease of alcoholism and addiction, is that it doesn't discriminate, and it will kill you. It will kill you, and it will kill me if I don't keep coming. And so I made it through that, had a little redheaded girl. She's 11 now. And I'm still sober, you believe that? My son now is 15. He's driving. I'm still sober. I did eventually graduate nursing school. I think it was a 10-year associate's degree, but that's okay. And so alcoholic, right? I didn't know. I knew I wanted to work in recovery at some point, but I also wanted to learn how to be like a real nurse too. And so of course I became an emergency department nurse, straight out of the gate. Straight to the ER. So I get to see people at their worst. I get to see people like us when they decide to quit drinking and they want help. I get to be that person today, and we get to sign up for our own patients. So whenever there's somebody that's coming in and they're drunk or they're wanting treatment, I'm like, I got it, it's mine. I also really enjoy Narcaning people. Like, if I can't do it, you can't do it. It's a little sick. It really is. It's okay. No, I've had a rough couple years. I became an emergency department nurse. I think I was a nurse for 2 years before COVID hit, 2 or 3, and then COVID happened. So all hell kind of broke loose in the healthcare industry, and it was a whole different type of psychological kind of stress and fear, and I had never been through that before like that, and then they shut down AA. There were no AA meetings that I could go to, and so I did some Zoom meetings, but I really just withdrew. I isolated, and I got depressed. I'm not a depressive person. I am usually pretty optimistic, and I lost that. I lost that kind of glow, that sparkle, whatever it is that sobriety has given me. That zest for life was snuffed out, and man, I was miserable. Talk about miserable sober. I finally went to my sponsor and I said, it's so hard to even tell her. But I told her, I said, I think I'm depressed. And I said, I don't know if I need to see a doctor, but can we go through the steps and see if that works first? She said, yes, but if they don't work, you're going to the doctor. And so she took me back through the steps, and immediately I found relief. And it reminds me that, alcohol is a symptom of my disease, but alcoholism touches everything in my life. And if I don't treat my alcoholism, everything in my life will get worse, right? Because I get worse. And so I know today that any problem I have in any area of my life, I can apply the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and it will get better because I get better. And that's just the truth of it. The 12 steps really are all about change. I don't know how many times I heard, you have to change everything but your name. I could have hit my head against the wall, but it's so true. That is the secret to it, is finding those old patterns, ideas, thoughts, and changing them into something new and better. And my sponsor, Sareka, today, and her grand sponsor, Jean, they always talk about clean house, serve God, and help others. Did I get it right? Something like that, yeah. Close enough. And it just keeps it really simple for me today. I don't have to be the best at everything, although I am glad they finally knew I was important enough to ask me to do this today. But no, I am truly honored to be here, and thanks for letting me share, guys.
Jessica, and I just want to let you know that we've donated $50 in your name to AA World Service. Thank you. So thank you so much. Okay, if you would help me close with the Lord's Prayer, and then we're going to get right on with that raffle, flowers and 50-50.